Good morning, everybody. This is a live extreme weather briefing with a lot to talk about. We've got Tropical Storm Epsilon that's to the southeast of Bermuda. Tropical storm watches have been issued for the island of Bermuda. Most of the models are showing Epsilon intensifying into a hurricane and passing just off to the east of Bermuda, but a lot of that depends on a push-pull action between an anticyclone that should be weakening to the west of Bermuda, and then a new anticyclone or a monster ridge that's going to form to the east of it that should help steer that northward turn. But there are some complexities with this track as that high pressure off to the west begins to subside. As that process happens, there could be a bend back to the west toward the island of Bermuda, and then eventually a turn to the north. But look at all that dry air that is dominating this hurricane to the west of it right now. It's wrapping in that dry air. Almost looks like a bit of a hybrid system right now. We've also got the wildfire threat to watch here in Colorado, with those mandatory evacuations continuing just to the north of the Boulder area. There you can see the video from my coverage of the Cal Wood Fire on Saturday. That was a really dangerous day for wildfires here across Colorado. That was when the Cal Wood Fire actually crossed Highway 36 between Lyons and the Boulder area. Sadly, 26 homes were destroyed in the Mountain Ridge area. That's in the foothills to the north of Boulder. There's also been another fire that has developed, and that fire is a left-hand canyon fire just to the southwest of the Cal Wood Fire. And so far these last few days, humidity values have been on the increase in this post-frontal environment. The dry winds have been a little bit subsided compared to Saturday when we had that dry cold frontal passage with those westerly winds really ramping up out ahead of it. But here's the latest map from Boulder County. Incredible firefighters here in the Boulder Canyon area trying to battle these fires and prevent them from coming down into the Boulder area. Here you can see the outline of where the Cal Wood Fire has burnt, and that came all the way to Highway 36, where it crossed Highway 36. Sadly, there was a large home just to the east of the highway that was completely burned to the ground. Meanwhile, over 24 homes in the Mountain Ridge area and the foothills just to the north of the Boulder area also were completely destroyed up there. Boulder's down to the south, so there are no evacuation orders for Boulder proper itself. There are some evacuation warnings, though, to the northwest of Boulder and the foothills, to the south of the Cal Wood Fire. And then you've got the left-hand canyon up here as well. Evacuation orders, mandatory evacuations to the south of the Cal Wood Fire. Here is the left-hand fire just shy of 500 acres. That was where the efforts were focused yesterday. Aerial assaults, firefighters definitely battling those hot spots out here. All of these are hard road closures as well. All the roads are closed around Jamestown with mandatory evacuations also. That's a town in the foothills to the northwest of Boulder. But this is the outline of that Cal Wood Fire, just shy of 10,000 acres. The good news is that it does look like there is a pattern shift on the horizon. We should see some snow, likely several inches of snow, maybe even 6 to 12 inches here on Sunday, Monday. There's a system coming in with northwesterly flow. There's also some winter weather alerts in southern Montana right now ahead of the Wednesday night into Thursday system. That's going to track across the Dakotas, leading a stripe of double-digit snowfall totals through central South Dakota. And with that pattern shift, lower humidity values, snowfall, a little bit of precipitation, that should act to mitigate the wildfire threat in the long term in Colorado. But in the near term, wildfire threats continue out here across the state of Colorado. These areas in red, those are all mandatory evacuations. Evacuation suggestions up here near Antelope Park, up near the Lyons area to the north of Highway 36. But this happened on Friday afternoon. The Cal Wood Fire developed Saturday late morning, right around noon, and then with those westerly winds ahead of the dry cold frontal passage, pushed it all the way down the foothills, crossing Highway 36, destroying at least 24 homes up there. And the video also shows a massive pyrocumulus plume that was surging well up through the troposphere. Many vortices as well, even fired tornadoes along the periphery of these fires. And the Cameron Peak Fire continues to the northwest of it as the largest wildfire in Colorado state history. That one's to the west and to the northwest of Fort Collins. The Mullen Fire also continues to burn near the Colorado-Wyoming border. And we definitely need some precipitation. We definitely need a pattern shift, and we're going to discuss that pattern shift later on in this briefing. We're also going to focus here on Hurricane Epsilon that we are monitoring to the southeast of Bermuda. I thought that Epsilon was going to form in the Western Caribbean for a while there, but the chances of Western Caribbean development are beginning to decrease. The GFS is kind of known for developing these phantom storms throughout this tropical season. It has nailed many forecasts as well over the European model, but it looks like the European model is going to be the accurate model here and not depicting that tropical cyclone development in the Western Caribbean. Although the GFS still is hinting at a tropical storm forming maybe near the northern tip of the Yucatan, and some of the GFS model members are still bending a tropical cyclone back to the northeast toward the western coast of Florida, maybe on Halloween. We're going to have to keep a close eye on that Western Caribbean zone, definitely. Tropical cyclones can develop fast out there, but it looks like at least for the next few days, there's going to be quite a bit of wind shear down there in the Western Caribbean, and there's quite just disorganized blobs of convection down there right now. So it looks like the GFS was a little bit out to lunch with the development of that system. Instead, this upper level low that was largely non-tropical for most of the time, basically a tilted system. You had a surface low pressure at the low levels that was void of any convection, with most of the convection off to the east of it. But then that changed. The wind shear has gradually been decreasing with a general area of high pressure aloft in this area. You do have a lot of dry air here on water vapor satellite imagery wrapping in the west side of this system. This is the Radar Omega app here I'm using with these tropical tracking tools as well. But this dry air is definitely keeping this tropical system at bay and almost giving it this hybrid appearance. So you do have a tropical vertically stacked warm core now near the center of that cyclone, but you still have a lot of this convection with a conveyor belt type situation displaced from the low pressure. So it still does have that tilt in general from the low levels, the low level cyclone, to this blob of convection aloft, almost like a conveyor belt on the east side of this upper low. Swinging into it. So it still does have this hybrid appearance with a lot of dry air wrapping around the south side of this. You do have a little bit of a compact tropical core around the center, but the pressure of Epsilon, Tropical Storm Epsilon, is down to 996 millibars. The recent hurricane reconnaissance aircraft has shown some stronger winds, many barbs at 45 knots at least on the east side of the center. So it is possible that's a little bit stronger than that. Maybe 55 to 60 mile an hour sustained winds, but really it has this hybrid appearance here with an upper level low transitioning into a tropical system. Many of the models though are still showing this passing just to the east of Bermuda. There's Bermuda, Hamilton right there. That's where Bermuda is located, right in the middle of that dry air just dominating the Sargasso Sea so far, with just this little upper low. And tropical system, hybrid system approaching from the west. But most of the models show a bend back to a westerly direction. And this is as there's a anticyclone to the west of this system that is supposed to intensify, and then it's supposed to weaken a bit. That could cause a bend back to the west of Tropical Storm Epsilon. But then an anticyclone is forecast to solidify to the east of this system, and that should resume a northern push to the east of Bermuda. But still, there are tropical storm watches that are in effect for Bermuda. Some of those intensity models are also showing this being pretty close to a Category 2 storm as it passes. And another thing we have to talk about later, I'll just tease the snow map here, but that shows the stripe through North Dakota that's going to be happening Wednesday night through Thursday, mostly on Thursday in North Dakota through northwestern Minnesota. But those are 10 to 12 inch snowfall totals, maybe even greater than that. There is a winter storm watch that's also been issued for south central Montana for 10 to 18 inches of snow. Those higher totals are going to be in the mountains around Billings, but that winter storm watch does include Billings. But really, Lee cyclogenesis ramps up across southeastern Wyoming, and it looks like that track of the surface low is going to take something like this, ending up in Wyoming or ending up in Iowa Thursday evening. But we'll look at that exact surface low track. But right now, most of the models, and this is the NAM, showing a pipe of double-digit snowfall from southeastern Montana, through North Dakota, through northwestern Minnesota, and definitely the NAM model is showing a decent amount of snow going through the Broadus area, maybe just to the north of Broadus. That was the area where I spent July 4th this year in southeastern Montana there. Miles City could have a little bit greater snow. Most of that should fall to the north of Broadus. And also some accumulating snows in the Black Hills once again too. So I do expect more winter weather alerts for the Black Hills for Wednesday night into Thursday. A possible 3 to 5 inch type snowfall there, even though majority of that snow axis is going to be to the north of you. The Black Hills are always able to squeeze out some decent snowfall out of that. But this is just a snow map tease. We're going to break down the overlying pattern. A big trough is going to be coming in. That's going to be associated with a pattern shift. Another system is going to be coming in this weekend on Sunday. That's going to be a little bit further south, bringing some snowfall back into Colorado. Hopefully that'll act to mitigate the fire risk just a little bit, but we need a lot of precipitation to really make that happen. And here's the upper level pattern ushering in that pattern shift. This is a big trough that's diving south through the western U.S. And with all of those warm sea surface temperatures in the northeastern Pacific off to the west, I do think that that ridge axis is going to want to set up over the northeastern Pacific, and that would lead to a lot of cold air intrusions just east of the northern Rockies. You could also get a lot of disturbances embedded within this west-northwesterly flow, bringing a lot of snow potentially to the central and northern Rockies, which we definitely need out here in Colorado. It's been so dry over the foothills and the Rocky Mountains to the west that hopefully this is the beginning of a snowy winter pattern here. But this is the system Wednesday night through Thursday. This one that's going to bring that snow axis across North Dakota, southeastern Montana, into northwestern Minnesota. It's going to lead to Lee's cyclogenesis tomorrow on Wednesday night. Then by Thursday morning, we should have a decent surface low there in southeastern Wyoming. Some upslope flow should also resume, initiate there in eastern Wyoming, eastern Montana. And then as this surface low lifts to the north, it's going to bring a band of snow across North Dakota, northwestern Minnesota. But we've actually got snow ongoing this morning as well across northeastern South Dakota into western Minnesota, southeastern North Dakota. We'll break down that snow event as well. There's been some 4-star snow reported so far this morning. But this is the system that has prompted winter storm watches across southern Montana, including the Billings area, for 10 to 18 inches of snow Wednesday night through Thursday. But we'll break down the models, the exact surface low track. We'll compare the different models as well. But back to Epsilon, I wanted to show you quick the official National Hurricane Center track. This yellow area that shows the tropical storm watches over Bermuda, forecast to pass to the east of Bermuda as a Category 1 hurricane. Some of those intensity models, though, are showing it a little bit stronger. But the reason these tropical storm watches have been hoisted for Bermuda are because of the large wind field of this hybrid system extending with those tropical storm force winds extending well beyond the center, the track, and also this westward turn that's expected. Even though satellite imagery so far this morning has shown more of a northward bias relative to the official forecast track in those models, that weakening of the ridge to the west of this system before the ridge solidifies to the east of it could have a bend back to the west. But then as that ridge, anticyclone, intensifies to the east of this system, I do expect a northward turn to the east of Bermuda. But this is Epsilon. I thought Epsilon was going to form in the western Caribbean by about the middle of this week, but the GFS model has definitely backed off on that potential. Speaking of the GFS, here are those GFS ensembles also showing Tropical Cyclone Epsilon to pass just to the east of Bermuda. Despite this westward shift, giving everybody in Bermuda a bit of a scare, it's then going to shift off to the north as that anticyclone solidifies to the east of this system out in this area. And then it should shift off to the northeast. Once the trough arrives in the northern stream, then we're going to transition into a powerful extratropical cyclone hybrid system with an expanding wind field as it moves across the northern Atlantic, eventually heading over toward the UK as well. But the GFS ensembles, in fact, all the models are showing Epsilon to pass just to the east of Bermuda. These are the incredible hurricane model intensity forecasts from Levi Cohen and the tropicaltidbits.com website. One member has it intensifying up to a Category 2 storm. Most of those members, though, show just a low-end Category 1 hurricane passing just to the east of Bermuda. And now we'll shift on over to the upper level forecast and kind of break down some of the steering currents that are associated with Epsilon, even though it's mainly going to be a non-factor, aside with some impacts there in Bermuda, of course, with it passing just to the east. But look at that anticyclone right now, a big elongated anticyclone that's ahead of this pattern shift. This is the jet stream. This is the anticyclone that's dominating the northeastern Pacific. That should encourage a lot of cold air intrusions and disturbances in this west-northwesterly flow from the Pacific Northwest across the northern Rockies. Should be a pretty snowy, cold season here across the northern Rockies, the Rockies of Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, as well as Idaho. Probably a storm track as well over the Pacific Northwest with this ridge axis wanting to form over the northeastern Pacific with those warm sea surface temperatures and intermodulation happening between the sea surface temperatures and the overlying atmosphere in the extratropics up there. And overall, here's Epsilon. That's to the east of Bermuda. This is the model, the GFS model analysis. And this ridge to the west is forecast to break down a bit. We should have a westward turn of Epsilon and then a turn to the north as this anticyclone starts to dominate to the east of Epsilon, basically turning this into splitting this larger anticyclone in two. This is an upper level low that is transitioning into a tropical system. Kind of a hybrid appearance now with that dry air wrapping around. But here is the anticyclone that is starting to dominate by Thursday morning here to the east of this system, and that should encourage Epsilon to turn to the north just to the east of the island of Bermuda that you can see to the west of it. And eventually this system will turn to the north, and then the next trough. Here you can see that pattern shift that's going to bring those winter storm conditions from southeastern Montana across North Dakota as well. This is a big trough that's coming into the east of that anticyclone in the northeastern Pacific. So these troughs seem to mature here in the northwestern U.S., dive down into the central Rockies. You get Lee's cyclogenesis and then a stripe of snow across the northern Rockies. Eventually this system is going to curve Epsilon off to the northeast, but notice how these systems are flattening out over top this dominant anticyclone over the northern Atlantic and then surge far to the north. Toward the end of this week, you could really see the amplitude of this system increase, reaching its peak there by Thursday night, as most of the flow is going to be on the east side of this trough by this time. You can still see the anticyclone trying to hold on in the northeastern Pacific with a big-time system over the Aleutians there of Alaska to close out the week. But here you can see the anticyclone forming to the east of Epsilon, and that's going to encourage a northward turn, eventually a northeastward turn, as this trough associated with the pattern shift for the north-central U.S. increases in amplitude just a bit. There we go, but still flattens out a bit as it reaches the eastern U.S. And then here's another system coming down the pipe on Saturday that should bring some snow for the central Rockies, including Colorado. That should be the relief, much needed relief. And look at this anticyclone here still forming in the northeastern Pacific, encouraging these systems once they pass the Pacific Northwest to really deepen and ramp up on approach to the central Rockies. And I think that that's a pattern that we're likely going to see throughout this winter, with possibly a snowy winter for the ski lovers here across Colorado, Wyoming, Utah. This system gains more of a positive tilt with kind of a cutoff lobe there going through Southern California. That should provide a bit of a break. Problem though with these systems that dive south to the east of the Rockies is you get very strong northerly winds on the backside. You get a lot of gap flow type situations between this high pressure and the northeastern Pacific and these troughs that are diving down into the central Rockies. And that's going to make worse the wildfire situation across portions of California, Oregon, at least those areas that are not getting much in the way of precipitation out there. But this is a pattern shift that is much needed for the central and northern Rockies, where wildfires are raging as well in Colorado and Wyoming. This pattern here should bring more precipitation down south, maybe several inches of snow as well across the Rockies. We should have Lee's cyclogenesis here to the south of Colorado, which would bring in quite a bit of upslope flow. And then finally, here around the 26th, the GFS is starting to hint again, teasing us with that tropical cyclone formation down there in the western Caribbean. this was the system that we were monitoring in the central U.S. that would determine whether that storm would become a meandering monster there in the Gulf of Mexico, maybe turn to the northeast and impact the western Florida peninsula. So this trough digs way down into the southern plains. And it looks a little bit too positively tilted to get any severe weather with this system. Maybe this could develop into a bowling ball of a vortex that surges across Dixie Alley with the threat of Dixie Alley severe weather as we get a little closer to Halloween. But here you can see this tropical cyclone again near the tip of the Yucatan around the 27th, 28th of October. And there is a chance that this could become a tropical cyclone and lift to the northeast out ahead of this trough, diving through the central into the eastern U.S., finally eroding that western lobe of the Bermuda High that's been moving into the southeastern U.S. and across the northern Gulf of Mexico so much. But this would be the end, likely end of hurricane season. And it's possible that we could get a tropical cyclone that lifts northeast toward the western coast of Florida around October 29, 30, or 31st. But the GFS kind of kills that tropical cyclone with the southwesterly wind shear ahead of that trough. Again, we can look back at the GFS ensembles and see what they're showing. This is back to the tropicaltidbits.com website. And these are the different mean sea level pressure at the surface of the different members of the GFS. So you can see quite a bit of agreement, obviously, up there with Epsilon. And most of the GFS members show that western turn toward Bermuda, teasing Bermuda potentially, and then turning off to the north as that anticyclone starts to solidify to the east of it. And most of the models are in agreement with that turn to the north just east of Bermuda. A couple of those members come dangerously close. And then as we get a little closer to the 23rd, 24th, 25th of October, some of the GFS members are still showing pressure falls there to the west of Jamaica and a possible development of a tropical cyclone between the Yucatan and Jamaica that could move toward the northern tip of the Yucatan. Possibly could develop into the southern Gulf of Mexico ahead of this trough that's forecast to come in Sunday into Monday, bringing several inches of snow. Maybe if this tropical system matures and lifts far enough north into the southern Gulf of Mexico, maybe just north of the Yucatan, it could turn to the northeast ahead of that trough. But most of the GFS members get a little messy as you get closer to the 27th, 28th, kind of turning to the northeast, a weaker tropical system, or a couple of them have a deeper tropical system there near the northern tip of the Yucatan around the 28th or so, and then eventually that trough arrives, curls that system to the northeast toward the western coast of Florida. So we still need to watch this closely in the western Caribbean. Even though the GFS has backed off just a bit on development, it even has another system trying to form there in that western Caribbean to the west of Jamaica. We'll have to see if those are fantasy storms or if they'll actually materialize in the Caribbean. You still could get a couple monster hurricanes down there, but overall the jet stream sagging south through the United States is transitioning us more into snow mode here as we move forward. And as I mentioned, we definitely need to start pivoting toward a snow focus and intercepting snow. So far, just to the west of the Watertown area, 4-star snow being reported. This is basically a warm front type of a situation, a surface low down here in south central South Dakota. Temperatures warming above freezing to the south of that warm front, changing things over to rain. But the winter weather advisories continue just into southeastern North Dakota into western Minnesota, where temperatures are forecast to remain below freezing for a little bit longer. Fargo, you're at 32, 3/4 of a mile visibility, and light snow up there with an east-southeasterly wind. Pretty heavier snow in the northeastern corner of South Dakota with this system. But let's break down the radar really quick and take a look at what that snow is doing. There are some new tracking tools here on Radar Omega for these snowstorms, so we're going to be definitely giving winter weather a focus, of course, as we always do. I like to chase the lake effect. I like to chase these bomb cyclones, really anything dumping snow. I'm a big-time snow lover of all different types of weather. So here is the winter weather advisories. That's in the purple outline. And a heavier snow right now is falling pretty close to Aberdeen. You can see some higher reflectivities there. Some lighter snow up near Fargo with that 3/4 mile visibility just a little earlier. But these are the alerts, and you can see winter weather advisories extending all the way east, including Minneapolis, St. Paul. You guys are under winter weather advisories. The main snow zone is northeastern South Dakota right now into southeastern North Dakota, moving into west central Minnesota, the same areas that got some big time tornadoes this summer. The Dalton, Minnesota tornado was definitely the tornado of the year up there. Many storm chasers intercepted that one from close range. I wasn't able to. Didn't have quite enough grit to drive all the way across the state of North Dakota after chasing in Montana the day before. I should have in hindsight, of course. But looping this, you can see that this is quite a progressive system, and that's why we just have winter weather advisories. Temperatures are pretty close to freezing too, so not expecting a huge accumulation totals with this. Let's look at some of these winter weather advisory alerts, 3 to 6 inches. Even some light ice as well mixing in there. Snow's going to overspread the area in Minnesota off to the east. A winter weather advisory is in effect, mostly to the north of I-90. Widespread snowfall of 3 to 6 inches, so it is going to remain pretty close to freezing out there. And there could be some isolated higher amounts along and just south of I-94 in Minnesota up there, west central Minnesota into central Minnesota. The afternoon commute definitely going to be impacted, and this winter weather advisory continues through the late night tonight there in central Minnesota. Those advisories extend a little bit later in the night tonight. Actually, all those advisories are until 1 a.m. So snow's going to overspread the area here across central Minnesota. 3 to 6 inches expected in this general area. It's already snowing just to the south of, well, actually Minneapolis and St. Paul now has a decent band that is moving in there. Light to moderate snow overspreading southwestern Minneapolis, St. Paul, but definitely moistening very rapidly with this system. St. Cloud getting some decent snow. Pretty heavy, a heavier band on the northern side of this precipitation shield is about to come in to the St. Cloud area. But the heaviest snowfall is expected in this zone, and that includes Minneapolis. Definitely 3 to 6 inch snowfall totals, maybe a little bit greater than that. Mostly to the north of I-90, near and to the south of Interstate 94. But look at that snowfall spreading in with the back edge now over southeastern South Dakota. This one also extends to 1 a.m. with some freezing drizzle expected after the precipitation zone moves through. And then a more prolific storm system moves in, and that's why we already have these winter storm watches that are in effect across southeastern Montana. These are for snow squalls that have been passing through central and northern Montana throughout the day. This is a special weather statement that's in effect with the visibilities dropping below a half mile at times, some gusty winds within these northwest to southeast oriented squalls. We're going to see a lot of these snow squalls this winter as well with this pattern with that ridge axis setting up in the northeastern Pacific and a lot of cold air intrusions coming down from Canada. And a winter weather advisory is in effect here. The winter storm watch was in effect for southeastern Montana. That included the Billings area. I'll have to reinvestigate that and see if that was allowed to expire. But now we're going to go through the different models. Let's break down some snow maps here. This is the fun part. We'll start off with the NAM, which is my favorite winter weather model. This is that system that's coming in Wednesday night through Thursday. Tighten this up a bit. So it's looking like with of course I would intercept a hurricane if it did come in to western Florida, so I'm going to keep an eye on that. But overall, I am starting to pivot into winter storm coverage mode. Here you can see this system. This is Thursday morning, still intensifying with a lot of flow on the backside. Ski jump type of a configuration, punching into the Dakotas. That's where the heavy snow band is expected to materialize. Looking down at the surface, we're going to have Lee's cyclogenesis with that trough kicking in pretty close to the Colorado-Wyoming border. Northwesterly is already surging in by Thursday morning here. This is the snow band is going to materialize off to the north of that low. Look at North Dakota just getting hammered. Southeastern Montana as well. 10 to 18 inches of snow over the higher terrain there. Winter storm watches are going to be coming out here shortly if they're not already out across North Dakota for this system. This is Thursday morning. A little bit of a mix bleeding in to south central North Dakota, north central South Dakota there. But mostly it's going to stay all snow throughout South Dakota. It looks like the heaviest band of snow could pass just to the north of Fargo, maybe Grand Forks, but Fargo definitely gets in to that heavier snow, at least according to the NAM. Let's bounce quickly over to the GFS model, see what's being shown over there. At about the same time, this is Thursday afternoon. GFS shows a little bit further south of the track with that Lee cyclogenesis happening mostly in eastern and southeastern Colorado by Thursday afternoon. And then eventually that surface low should eject northeast through portions of Iowa. Turns into a blue northern cold front, almost a bore, blasting south into the Texas Panhandle here. But this is the effective surface low. It jumps northeast through Iowa into Wisconsin. Definitely weakens. It definitely peaks here further west across the Rockies. And looking at the Gfs Snow Maps. So the GFS has that track a little further south, straddling the North Dakota-South Dakota border. This is the new 12Z GFS coming into central Minnesota. Similar areas that are getting hammered by this 3 to 6 inch snowfall right now. Look at these big snowfall totals expected as well. That's those 10 to 18 inch snowfall totals with the winter storm watches prompted. That's to the southwest of Billings, to the west of Sheridan, maybe down near the Cody area as well. To the north of there could get quite a bit of snowfall, mostly across southern Montana. And then the surface low snow, the deformation zone snow that forms along that band really ramps up to the northeast of the Black Hills along the North Dakota-South Dakota border. The NAM model is a little further north, mostly in the heart of North Dakota there into northwestern Minnesota. And the European is in rough agreement with the GFS with that stripe of snow right around just north of the North Dakota border. So really southern North Dakota coming right into Fargo. Double-digit snowfall, maybe in excess of a foot happening Wednesday night through Thursday. And then we have the next system coming down the pipe. That's next Tuesday. Here's this current system Thursday morning. And then another system barrels down from the Pacific Northwest. Has an unusual positive tilt with a bowling ball of a vortex dropping southeast. And this is the one that could bring several inches of snow to the Colorado Rockies. This is going to be a much needed precipitation producer for the wildfire situation across the Rockies. You basically just have this general positively tilted trough. It reinvigorates its flow on the backside on Sunday morning, which should act to dig that system a little bit further south. And this is by Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. We'll likely be talking about quite a different feel here in the Rockies with a much needed pattern shift. Look at this low developing way off to the south across northern New Mexico. A monster high builds in across by Sunday evening across Wyoming, and that easterly flow should lead to quite a bit of upslope snow, maybe quite a bit of precipitation as well across eastern Colorado, maybe some upslope, but boy does that. So it looks like Saturday night into Sunday is going to be the period of snow here across Denver, the northern Rockies, across those wildfire zones. This is Saturday evening at about 7 p.m. Big time upslope flow between this 1043 high over western Montana and this low that's trying to dominate the Four Quarters region down there. That's going to lead to big time upslope. So Denver is going to get in on the snow here Saturday night through Sunday morning. Foothills are going to get hammered, probably 6 to 12 inches of snow with this pattern. But different than the recent cold fronts. At least this is not a dry cold frontal passage. We should get some moist easterly upslope flow, and that should definitely provide some much needed relief. With the wildfires, Mullen Fire, Cameron Peak Fire, Calwood Fire, Left Hand Canyon, and there's some new fires that are developing in the San Juans. I heard some hikers had to be evacuated out there in southwestern Colorado. But this should provide at least a brief respite for the wildfires. Then that monster high builds in, and we're going to return to some dry conditions here across the Mountain West, which will probably act to reinvigorate those wildfires toward the end of October. But hopefully this is a decent pattern shift. And look at that system out here diving into Dixie Alley around the 27th, 28th. We very easily could be chasing tornadoes early to middle portion of next week down in Dixie Alley, even though this is kind of a front side loaded system. Looks like it does have some more flow coming in on the northwest side with another system. Boy, this anticyclone still wants to dominate the western U.S. So I'm not really seeing much in the way of a pattern shift that's going to help California and Oregon. There should be some moisture coming in Saturday night into Sunday here for the Rockies portion. But then it dries out again as we go toward the middle to late portion of next week with windy conditions, likely dry cold frontal passages. So we could be shifting back toward a pattern that's quite prime for wildfires with a massive mega anticyclone forecast to build in across the western U.S. to close out the month of October. So that's the briefing that I've got for you guys today. We're going to continue these weather briefings nonstop. I may head north and intercept the snow event tomorrow night up into southeastern Montana, maybe the western Dakotas if I head up there for snow coverage. Otherwise, I'm going to keep an eye on the Western Caribbean, keep watching Epsilon. That could come dangerously close to Bermuda, but all the models are taking it off to the east. And we'll just continue with these weather reports. Sadly, the wildfires do continue to the north of Boulder, but at least we do have some higher humidities coming in, some weaker winds as well. So definitely not seeing the prime explosive fire development conditions that we've seen from the weekend from the end of last week. So that's allowing firefighters to catch up just a bit with the Calwood fire. But definitely my heart hurts for the people that lost their homes there in the foothills to the north of Boulder, with those 26 homes getting completely burnt to the ground. Just heartbreaking out there. These wildfires in the western U.S. affect everybody equally out there. So definitely sad to see such beautiful terrain and such beautiful places get completely destroyed by these wildfires. But hopefully this pattern shift comes in on Saturday night and Sunday and brings quite a bit of snow to the Colorado Rockies and up there and into Wyoming. But Wednesday night into Thursday looks like southern, southeastern Montana, and especially North Dakota, maybe far northern South Dakota into west central or northwestern Minnesota are going to get that next band. But snow right now for Minneapolis, 3 to 6 inches of snow falling. So everybody drive safe out there. Definitely take it slow, drive conservatively, get those snow tires where you need to. Tires make all the difference out there for driving. But we've got a lot of briefings moving forward. I'm going to start transitioning toward the storm chasing school content at least once a week, one night a week, covering the basic meteorology, forecasting skills, storm chasing, tech, programming, science, everything. So stay tuned, everybody. Please consider joining the Facebook supporter community to support this content, including live storm chasing, live briefings, our Team Dominator science. We also have our new Team Dominator store. We're selling shirts like the Louisiana Strong line to help support those people on the ground, those charity organizations helping out in the recovery effort there, especially in southern Louisiana, so ravaged by this hurricane season with the 1-2 punch from Hurricane Laura and Delta, and then Hurricane Sally there, Alabama east into western Florida. We definitely have to be mindful of everybody during their months to even years-long recovery effort from these hurricanes, fires, severe weather. Everything is covered here. So thank you, everybody, for joining me this Tuesday, late morning. Have a great rest of your day, and never stop chasing.